Hello and welcome to Back to the Feature, the show we talk about movies past, present, and future. And today we are talking about one of the biggest movies that's just ever come out in scale and now obviously in box office. Today we are talking about Avengers Infinity War.
If he gets all the Infinity Stones, he can do it with the snap of his fingers.
Avengers Infinity War, I mean, it's a 10-year project. It's a culmination of 18 other films, this being the 19th now in the MCU. I mean, I've definitely been a big fan ever since Iron Man and just kind of followed all of these movies. And I think for better and for worse, it's been a really great franchise up to this point. But I think we've all anticipated for years and years and years that we would get to this point. We would have Infinity War. We knew that Thanos was coming. We knew the gauntlet was going to happen. We knew all the stones. All the things have been put into place for 10 years. And now it's finally, this monumental movie has to come out. And I think that for how big of a task that was, this is just an amazing achievement. To be able to put that all together, make this movie with all these characters, all these different tones and personalities, and bring it all together in a coherent and really awesome blockbuster movie.
It's definitely a landmark.
Yeah.
This is a landmark. This has never been done before. And, you know, it's funny when you started talking about this was their plan before the first Avengers film, and, like, this is what they were going to do. You know, we all had those dreams. You know, we all had the dream of what this would look like.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how many years is that now? 6, 7, 8 years of hype to get to this point. And as someone who restrains himself a lot with hype, I don't usually let hype get to it. I mean, I was hyped for this film. Mm-hmm. I was anticipating it. I've been waiting for it, coming up with all of these things in my mind what this film would be like. And the movie still shook me and shocked me and, like, surprised me. And it actually, this is a spoiler-free review. We'll do a spoiler-free podcast, I think, later on. But right now, you know, just even some of the decisions they made, I said I wouldn't like the movie if they did this.
Mm-hmm.
And they went routes that I did not expect, and I still walked away from it loving it. So I think that the Russo brothers did a magnificent job. I think this movie stands apart from anything else that the MCU has done in terms of just the quality of the filmmaking behind it, and just the fact that they had to wrangle all of this together and somehow make it cohesive and have structure in any way, shape, or form because of all the different transitioning between all these different characters, and that the film it had good pacing, and it just kept you just locked into your seat for the whole ride, and this movie is a ride. So
yeah. I think that kind of the image of a roller coaster is really perfect for this kind of movie, and I think that's what really came across to me while watching it. It is one of those just great blockbusters. It's why you go to the theater to experience a big movie with a big crowd of people. We got to go see this in IMAX, and I think it's the greatest IMAX experience that I've ever had. Like, visually, it looked everything looked perfect. It was never kind of, you never kind of lose, detail and stuff as it moved and the cameras panned and everything. You can tell that they did this all on IMAX cameras like that. So watching it in that, the IMAX experience, watching that film was amazing. And I've seen some really great films so far in IMAX, and I really think that is saying a lot for, I think, just that medium as far as that kind of film.
Yeah, I think the build-up really does, though, too. We've been, since high school, we've been waiting for this film for 10 years, and we got it. Our eyes have laid upon this.
Yeah.
And just having all these characters for so many years, in a lot of ways growing up with them. Well, even before the movies, in comic book form and stuff like that, not having really the CBM outlet that we have now, it's just amazing. It's amazing that we got what we got, and I think it really does come across on screen. It really is electric, and you're just hammered down. And I've seen some negative reviews of people who are like, the film doesn't really help anybody who hasn't really watched or paid attention or followed along.
Yeah.
But at the very least, guys, this film is a third film in a trilogy of Avengers films. And you can't tell me that if you're watching the Battle of Pelennor Fields and Return of the King without seeing the Fellowship or the Two Towers and really say, well, they didn't really help me get into this film very well as a standalone. It's not a standalone film. You don't need to watch all 18, but geez.
Yeah, that's not a criticism. That's a nitpick.
criticism.
And I think that, that's something that's invalid. It's invalid by the fact that it's a sequel. I really hate that I think it's because there's been so many that people think that some of them need to stand on their own. Like, I think that some do. Like, if you're doing an Ant-Man movie, it needs to stand on its own. Like, so say if someone just wants to see Ant-Man, whoever this person is, big Paul Rudd fan, they just wanted to see Ant-Man and wasn't that interested in the greater universe. Those movies, yes, need to be, but I think that if you're going into Avengers Infinity War, like I said,
you're a fan of the series.
You're a fan of the series, or at least of a character that you care about. I really don't think that there's anything in this movie that, like, if you were watching this, you just couldn't understand. In general, what was happening, it's pretty simple. Big purple guy needs rocks to do bad things. I think you'll be fine.
I think that the CBM, that comic book films and just the genre itself gets criticized in a certain way, and I think that we do have to take source material into account a little bit. These are it's comic book adaptations, and you can take different routes to tell your stories. Like you can separate yourself, like with Logan or what The Dark Knight did and stuff like that, or you can make it feel more like comic book, like just come to the pages and, like when we've talked about it so many times before, just like grabbing an issue of a comic book or going through a series. It's a new story. It's a fresh story. They don't have to give all this backstory on Captain America. You don't need to understand why Captain America is the way he is. This is Captain America, and this is what he does, and it's just like those are like prerequisites.
I think it's funny because comic books do that, John. They have like the beginning of every issue of a Captain America comic. There's always an explanation of who the character Captain America is. The comic books always treats it as you have to pretend that kid is grabbing it off the stand. They just so happen to grab Captain America 165. They grab that off the stands, and that could be their entry. So they always would do that. But if you can't do that with film. You can't. Like, we have an opening crawl that has like 40 characters or something. Proxima Midnight. Well, this is her whole story. Sometimes it's like you have to understand what your medium is, and if they're doing well within the confines of that medium, instead of trying to, like I said, you're imposing some criticism on the film before you've even seen it that isn't necessarily relevant, because I don't want to see your film where every single time the movie has to stop and then a whole parade starts
and there's
explaining who the character is and tons of this exposition. If you're at Infinity War, you should have watched at least some of them.
Yeah, at least some of them. At least Civil War, at least the Captain America trilogy, for sure. But I think it also gets unequally judged, just like, oh, they didn't set this up very well prior, and it's like, God dang it, like that's what they did before has nothing to do with this film. But I think we're getting carried away on that. We'll touch on this in our podcast. Honestly, I was blown away. I don't have negatives for this film. And I've seen it I have seen it twice now. I think this is I think one of the biggest films, biggest movies, biggest blockbusters ever put to the screen. I think it does a better job, and I think it's more impressive than even what they did with The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And with The Last Jedi. Yeah. Even though, I feel like those are new establishing characters, though, and these are characters that are culminating at this point for us, which I think adds more levity. But I'm bringing in Thanos. I think Thanos stands out mightily in just film. I know it's early to say, but I think Thanos easily stands among some of the greatest villains put to the screen. And he does some crazy shit.
Yeah, this is Thanos' movie, for sure. And everybody that's been begging for a great MCU villain, I think I really do agree with you. I don't know where I put it, but I definitely think that as far as in blockbuster films, I don't think there's been that many villains that I can remember with a presence like Thanos. Like, Thanos is so imposing, physically, mentally, the gauntlet itself, the power he's wielding, like, when he shows up, it is scary. He's such an interesting yet terrifying and powerful character, and they bring that across so well in this movie. Josh Brolin's performance is amazing, if not like we're kind of talking about, one of the best performances just as far as like villains that I've ever seen. Like I said, he's such a presence in the whole movie. I think that when you have that out of a villain, that you know you have something special. And I think that that this movie is Thanos' movie. And we get to see so many sides to him, and we get to really understand him. And I think that that's what really sets this one apart for MCU villains, and also just for villains in general. It's what makes a good villain, is being able to try to humanize them in some ways and try to figure out who they are, what drives them. And make them a person and not just kind of like big purple punch guy. Yeah. So I was really glad that this was the route that they went with the movie.
Yeah, and that's what I thought it was going to be. Big purple punch guy. And I thought I was still going to like that.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what we've been accustomed to for the most part in the MCU. And this film, I will say, I think everybody's seen it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think so.
I think so. Maybe there's people holding off for the second weekend. If that's you, thank you for watching our spoiler-free review. But I mean, this film has it's just next level. I think it's next level in the MCU. I honestly don't think there's anything that's even close to it. And there's going to be people that come out and argue that based on pure character storytelling. I think like Black Panther, like if you think Black Panther, like that's great character storytelling. And I'm not going to fight you on that, but I think this film, just in turn, like the music, the cinematography, just the fact that they got all these characters together and told a cohesive story and held it all together, I think it just stands above everything else. Yeah. And
I would say that for sure in like comic book film, as far as large team-up movies, and I would include things like Captain America: Civil War, and I would include things like X-Men: Apocalypse, things like that, where you have, like I said, that's on the negative, that's a bad side of the spectrum. But where we've had now these big team-up movies, like big team-up movies where we're trying to have all these characters all together, this was the most daunting task possible of that kind of subgenre of superhero movie. But this is by far and easily the best that's ever been done. Like, it blows the original Avengers out of the water. But at the same time, though, I'll definitely say, and to the first Avengers credit, I felt very similarly during this one, that when I first saw the Avengers actually come together, but it's like the whole film. It's just like this sustained feeling that you had like when you saw all the Avengers come together and get to meet. It's really, really just a great superhero team-up film, and it's easily the best one. So that's definitely the thing I can definitely say about it, as far as like where it stands for me. It really had so many things against it. It's crazy how good this movie is.
Yeah.
But so we definitely talked about Thanos. What were your opinions as far as like the heroes, their screen time?
I really love the route. I really love all the decisions that they went with. Some of them we kind of called out earlier on. Some of them were completely from out of left field, like surprises. I think that the opening to the film before the title card even hits the screen is one of the greatest like openings to a film. I think like right out of the gate, as soon as it fades in from the black, I already knew that this film was different than anything else that I've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Before you even see a full shot of the person that's dialoguing in that opening scene, Ebony Maw. But I mean, just the way the camera is the way that the way that they work the cameras, the camera work was just splendid. But the tone, it sets a tone right away at the beginning, and it holds and resonates throughout the entire film. But right out of the gate, I had that feeling that this film was going to be different, and just seeing everything come together. I think like Thor is probably for me my favorite standout from the film. He's got there's so many good moments with everybody. Honestly, everyone gets some really, really good scenes. I think from just pure like rush feeling, Thor has some of those really big moments. And it's exciting coming right out of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Because I was a big fan of Ragnarok too, and this is a much different film from Ragnarok. But just seeing his path to where he becomes now, I thought was really awesome. But I mean, like everyone, I really love Peter Quill, Star-Lord, in this film as well. Some of the scenes that he's got some great scenes. He's just got some great scenes. I think everyone does.
Yeah, they give everybody their due. They give everybody something to do, and I think that there's so many great scenes where these actors really get to act and do some really some great character building, and it's crazy because the movie is moving so quickly, and I thought it was really impressive the way that they were able to work in a lot of these great, human parts of the characters, and it wasn't just a punch 'em up the entire time, and it felt cohesive to all the films that we've seen. I thought that they did a great job of, in general, with everybody acting the way that they would. Now, I did hear a rumor, and I don't know if this is 100% yet. I have to double check, but James Gunn actually wrote the dialogue for the Guardians.
I know that he did choose. I know he did choose their song, their entrance song.
Well, that's good because I think that he's such a big personality for the Guardians. But yeah, like everything like that, where everybody felt right, everybody felt like who they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that the character pairings and groupings that they picked throughout the movie were really great and intriguing, and characters that you wanted to see like meet and like have to like come head to head with from some of these newer ones that maybe haven't ever like come to the Avengers yet. And
it was crazy watching it on the second viewing. Just some of the scenes where the first time I wasn't really thinking about some of those dynamics.
Yeah, because you're just kind of like
riding, just like the movie just doesn't let up. I think on its pace. But like the second viewing, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right. Like that was their first time together, and it's so there's so many interactions with all these different characters that you never saw interact before. But I think that's like even more compliments to the Russo brothers, because even on first viewing, I wasn't even thinking about some of these interactions being the first time. I mean, they do acknowledge it in the film, but it just kept moving. And then at the second time, you kind of get to see more of those nuances and just some of the fun stuff. Just like, I can't wait to see more of these characters interacting together. But yeah, it was just a blast.
So obviously, like I said, we wanted to keep it short today. We want to keep it spoiler free. There's actually a lot of things that it's really hard to talk about this movie without putting any spoilers in. So I feel like we've kind of said everything that we really kind of feel about this. So John, what is your final summary and grade for Avengers Infinity War?
Final summary. I've already been tooting the horn for this whole review, but I think Avengers Infinity War is exactly what people thought it was going to be, and I think it was even more so than that. I think this is one of the greatest blockbusters ever brought to the screen. You can argue and debate all day over preference, over this and that, but I think it easily is in the conversation for one of those, one of the, if not the best comic book movie, but easily in the conversation of one of the greatest blockbusters ever. But yeah, I think that just there was a lot of care put into this film, and the integrity of filmmaking. I thought I could see more clearly in this film than I've seen in any other Marvel film. Besides maybe Guardians of the Galaxy, this is the first film that I walked out of and I was decided on a perfect score right away. I've never walked out of a Marvel film and just been like, that's an A+. So I'm already giving my grade there. But I just think that like the music, the acting, the one of the things that I do want to say too is what I love about the team-up movies is being able to see these characters fight and interact in a choreographed way. Being able to see the different powers and just the creativity that's used in these different fights. And this film, I think, just destroys everything that we've seen before in terms of all these characters just doing things together. Doctor Strange doing these different things with all these different characters. I don't want to say too much. We go in our spoilers, but it's just... I'm just in shock almost. I'm kind of hoping that the weekend comes quickly so I can see it a third time, kind of thing, if I can get away with it. But yeah, I mean, that's honestly what. Yeah, that's it. You can hear me talk about it more in our spoiler discussion with it. But yeah, I give Avengers Infinity War an A+.
Yeah, I think Avengers Infinity War is a monumental achievement. It is one of the greatest blockbusters ever made. I'm having a hard time of where I want to place it right now, and I think that only repeat viewings will kind of help me. But I think that the way I feel about it is it's definitely the best, if not one of the best Marvel movies I've ever seen. It's the greatest team-up film that's ever come out for a comic book film. And honestly, and for me, this is a personal preference thing. You know, I kind of put, to me, the Holy Trilogy is the Lord of the Rings trilogy as far as, greatest blockbusters ever. And I really believe this is just below that. Or, really in the rung of, some of these ones. These original Star Wars films people put up on the pedestal. This is up there with that, and I think that it's really hard to argue against it. So I really think that this is one of the most enjoyable, greatest blockbusters I've ever seen. So I'm also going to give Avengers Infinity War an A+. Definitely want to see it more. If you guys have had multiple viewings already, tell us in the comments how many times you've seen it, and tell us if you like it, or if you're that one guy that just is not into it. Just watched it, did not feel it. Because I have yet to hear anybody yet to just come up to me and be like, I really hated it. So, if you're the guy that hates it, tell me in the comments. Where are you? Who are you? Who are you? Anyway.
I've already contacted friends who don't like comic book movies and said, go out and watch it. I think you'll like Thanos. I just think that I think you will like this one beyond the other ones.
Yeah. Okay, guys, so tell us about it on our Facebook @BacktoFeature, and you can find us on our Twitter @BacktoFeature. I've been Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Vandeloo.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Perfectly balanced. As all things should be. I hope they remember you.